Yeah, I was just reminding the brothers to know that Salat and change tomorrow.
Here you go. That's center. Perfect.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلوات الله وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد المصطفى وعلى آله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وما بعد. It was my intention to continue our discussion of Surah Al-Fatiha. There's a lot more to say, but I'll probably just do this one session and maybe one more. But my question to you, you all want to continue this dance, or should we save it for everyone, or whoever misses it, misses it? Whatever your protocol is, I'll just go with that.
No protocol, whatever you feel like.
Did you announce, or you didn't have enough time to announce it, right? Is that what it is? Or maybe because it's
announced it.
it's the night before New Year's.
I only get the announcement today. I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't have enough time.
I see.
Some
Yeah,
other
you
people.
came. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have a very special discussion, and I wish the people who are participate in that. So why don't we do this? Let me just chat with you guys. Would you mind if the sister come in? Let her sit at the back so she can participate in this. We have a discussion. Are you all okay with that? I don't mind that at all. Sister, if you want, you can come and sit at the back. So you can join in the discussion. So, yeah, let's discuss whatever you want. You have any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
There is a subject I would like you to enlighten us for it.
Okay.
It's like Salat al-Qasr wal-Jama, if it's possible.
Yeah.
Because it's a topic for confusion, and a lot of people not have it clearly understanding from different points. Like for example, if I'm gonna leave my house before Salat al-Dhuhr, before even the adhan comes in, and I know I'm gonna be on the road during the Asr and Dhuhr, what is the right way to do my Salah? Because I know I'm gonna be on the road, I'm gonna be traveling. Sometimes I'm gonna be in a place or.
Okay. So the question you asked about Salatul Qasr for the Musafir and Jama for the Musafir is a detailed topic, so we can handle the fiqh of that sometime, but I want to answer your specific question. I don't want to discuss the whole details of that, so just a specific question. So your specific question, if I understood you correctly, is what do you do if you're leaving home before
Yes.
the time of Dhuhr enters, but you know that you're going to be traveling all the way through to Maghrib? Am I understanding you correctly?
Most of the time I will be in my destination in Maghrib, so the issue
Yeah.
will be Dhuhr.
You'll be traveling between the start of Dhuhr and the ending of Asr,
Yes.
or the starting of Maghrib. Well, it's very clear, there is no doubt about this. None of the scholars have any difference of opinion that you cannot do Salatul Faridah before the time. So it is not acceptable to do a Fard Salah, whether it's Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, or Isha, before the time enters. Never, it's never permissible. Nor is it permissible for, so I'll qualify this when I'm done, to do it after the time, meaning that you intentionally delay it until the time has passed. So the salah must be done within the specified span of time. So the time for salah is not a specific moment. There is a starting time and there is an ending time. So let's say if I were to use real life data right now based on Daytona. So we have here today Salatul Dhuhr came in at 12:29 p.m. Salatul Asr at 3:19 and Salatul Maghrib at 5:37. So we'll go with these timing here. So if you left home at 12:15, which means it's 14 minutes before the time of Dhuhr coming, you cannot do Dhuhr. It's not permissible for you to do Dhuhr. Nor is it permissible for you to do it after Maghrib, which would be 3:57. Actually, it should be done at least about 10 minutes before, so I would say at least by 5:27, 5:30, the very, very latest. Now, why did I say Dhuhr until the time of Maghrib? Because when you're traveling and you combine Salah, the time also combine. Huh? So, for the Musafir, the time for Dhuhr and Asr would be any time between 12:29 p.m. based on day tourist time until before 5:37, the time for Maghrib. So you want to leave at least about 10-15 minutes safe. That's a time that it's forbidden to pray. I say forbidden under normal circumstances because if you're forced to pray Asr before that time, if you're late, you'll do it. You still considered within time. So you combine the time of Dhuhr and the time of Asr, and you can do Dhuhr and Asr as a Musafir anytime between 12:29 and 5:30. Probably 5:25 is better. So now you have no choice. You have to stop, you have to pull over, you have to find a parking and do Salat al-Dhuhr in that time. It's not permissible before and it's not permissible after to be considered on time.
Yes.
To be considered on time. So what's the best time as a Musafir, as a traveler, for you to pray? The best time is if you were to pray at the ending of Dhuhr and the starting of Asr. So if you were to time it perfectly, so let me go back to this. I think it was 3:19 it had said, right? 3:19 was the time that Asr comes in. So if you were to time it, say 3:15, you start Dhuhr. And then you finish Dhuhr, and by the time you finish Dhuhr, the time of Asr enter, and you do Asr. That's the best time. But it's permissible to do what we call Jam'u Taqdeem or Jam'u Ta'khir. So if you were able to stop at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock at a rest stop or wherever, and you pray Dhuhr and Asr, this is for the Musafir.
Yes.
As long as the requirements for Safar are fulfilled. But I'm not talking about that now. We're going with the assumption that you are Musafir. Huh? So you can do Dhuhr 2 rak'ah and Asr 2 rak'ah. That's the qasr. That's qasr means shortening. So for the Musafir, it's permissible for you to do 2 things for Taysir. Actually, it's really 3 things. 3 concessions you're given as a Musafir. That you're allowed to combine the time and do it in either the time of Dhuhr, the time in between, or the time of Asr. If you do it in the time of Dhuhr, it's called Jam'u Taqdeem, combining early, or Jam'u Ta'khir, combining later, meaning after the time of Dhuhr. So that's the first thing, combining the time is the first concession. The second thing is that you shorten the Salah. So instead of doing 4 rak'ah for Dhuhr, you do 2. And instead of doing 4 rak'ah for Asr, you do 2. So that's the second concession. And the third, you combine the 2 Salah. So you combine in the sense you do them at the same time. 1 stop. One stop. So you do 2 rak'ah for Dhuhr and you make Salam. And then 2 rak'ah for Asr and make Salam. So when we say combine, we don't mean combine them and 4 rak'ah. No. 2 rak'ah for Dhuhr with Salam on both sides. And 2 rak'ah for Asr, Salam on both sides. Does that answer your question, or you still have?
No, that's
clear. Go ahead, sister. Wa alaikum salam.
2 things I want to ask you. So, in a case of an emergency, you have to take a family member to the emergency room. You weren't able to make your Dhuhr Salat or your Asr, but in the emergency room area, and so they have started the process of looking at that patient. So around the time Asr is coming in, then the patient is called to come to the back, you accompany them. So by the time you're finished with the emergency room process, it's Maghrib, but you haven't been allowed the time to make Dhuhr, Asr announcement prayer. So, yes, you have to make up all of those salats, but is there a penalty underneath Islamic law because you weren't able, because you're in that particular situation, so you weren't able to make those salats because you're in that emergency room situation?
So, whether it's because of taking someone to the emergency or otherwise, you slept or you were way too tired, you couldn't focus on salah, for whatever reason, we miss salah. And when I say this, I'm not encouraging one to do so, but sometimes inevitably, sometimes we can forget. It happens. A person is so busy, preoccupied, and then he just say, "Oh, Mary, the time for salah is near finish or finish, and I didn't pay attention." Could happen. Or the person overslept, not that he intended, or the emergency, or whatever else. So if ever we miss salah, uh, I don't want to talk about penalty because that's something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do. I hope that if we had good intentions and we wanted to, and if the circumstances were different, we would have done differently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all of that. And whether we are penalized or not, that's in His hands. So first of all, there's no penalty from the law or from anyone else. No one can, I don't know, give you 10 lashes. There's no such thing for being late with salah. That being said, I want to say it is highly discouraging. In fact, it's forbidden for a person to intentionally leave off salah when he has the ability to do so. Whether it's a valid excuse or not, it's between him and Allah. So I would not judge anybody. If someone were to tell me, brother, I just couldn't, I'm not able to, for whatever, I said, between you and Allah, because He's the one who judges us. I don't judge people. And I'm hoping that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be lenient and forgiving for all of us, for our shortcomings and negligence. That being said, whenever we miss salah, that salah is due immediately upon having remembered or awakened or having the opportunity if the opportunity was not there. That being said, also I have additional information. So our deen is very simple and it's very straightforward. Let me explain a concept a lot of people are not familiar with. So we have many shurut for stipulations or requirement for the validity of salah. And I don't want to give you a complete lesson on this because that's detailed. Then we have those are things done before salah, like dressing, time, wudu, facing the qibla, all of that. Then there are things within salah that are categorized into 3 categories. So this is details needed, and this is not the time for that. I'm not going to go into the details. So you have what we call arkanus salah, the absolute essentials for salah, wajibat salah, the things that are necessary in salah, and then mustahabbat salah or sunan salah, the things that are recommended for you to do in salah. If a person is pressed for time or is incapable of fulfilling any of the conditions or the requirements for the validity of salah, the one that is most important is the time. And I'll come back to that in a second. And so that we can capture the time, we can forego not the wajibat, but the sunnah of salah. So I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Let's say, and I'll give you an example. Imagine that a person, and I'm using a situation that is possible. It can happen to anybody. Let's say you're thrown in a jail, and you don't know the qibla. You're not quite sure about the time, but let's say you know the time because we want to make sure you do it on time, right? But you have no way of making wudu, and they took your clothing from you. I'm just saying, imagine that, right? And you have no way of knowing the direction of the qibla, but you know the time. Let's assume you have a little light out that can tell you where the sun is. And by the way, if you can see the sun, you should know the qibla. That being said, now it's time for salah. What do? Do you say, I don't do salah because I don't have clothing? Because I don't know the qibla? or I don't have anything to make wudu. No. You forego all of those, you do the best you can. So the way you would do the prayer is that you will do a symbolic tayammum. When I say symbolic, because tayammum you must do with dry dirt, but you don't have any dry dirt in there. We assume you don't. Probably have a concrete wall, I don't know. Brick wall, you tap your hand, wipe your face and your arms up to your elbow. Yeah. So you do tayammum. And then you sit and you pray, and you sit like this, you crouch and cover yourself as much as is possible. And you'll make ruku like this, and you'll make sajda a little bit more. So if you were to go into a full sajda, you completely, expose yourself. So in that situation, you would make ruku sitting and sajda a little bit further. The reason why is because the most important thing for salah is the time. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that salah is intended that we do dhikrullah, in specific stations during the day. We remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we take a break from life. Even if the circumstances determine that you do it mentally. And how would that be possible? Imagine a person's paralyzed, right? And they couldn't move their body. And they're lying on their bed. Do they not do salah? No, they do salah. Some of the scholars say they imagine their eyes making ruku and making sajda. But even if you couldn't do that, you would do it mentally. Imagine you're in a vegetative state, but you're conscious. I'm thinking that's possible. Then you still will do salah. So the requirement for salah is not lifted unless it's a woman in her monthly cycle or postnatal period, or a child who hasn't reached the age of puberty as yet, but it's what we call the age of taklif, where he is accountable, he's held accountable. He hasn't reached the age of accountability, he's not held accountable for salah as yet. Or if a person is insane, if a person lost his sanity, the pen is lifted, he's not held accountable. And the person who is sleeping, I gotta be careful so people don't misuse this. The person who is sleeping until he wakes up, that's if he intends to wake up for salah. But if he just don't set the alarm and stay up until 4 o'clock and then say, oh, I couldn't wake up at 5 for salah, no, that's not an excuse. That sleep as an excuse is not. That is a person who has been overwhelmed, overpowered. He wanted to, he intended to, he always does, but he was overpowered. Let's say you travel a long journey and you arrive home at 2 o'clock at night, and you're completely tired, or you had a long day at work and you go to bed, and you normally would wake up, but you didn't wake up today. Allah knows that. So that's what the hadith is talking about. It's not saying a person go to bed later and don't wake up. He say, oh, the hadith say that the pen is lifted from the one who is sleeping. Now we come to the other part. What's the normal circumstances, right? So I remember a brother, long time ago, I was in Charlotte. He said, I work at a meat factory where they slaughter skin, cut up meat and all of that. He said, the place is filthy. I have nowhere to pray. There's no place I can make sajda. I said, brother, is there a place you can go out? He said, no. I said, is there an office you can go to? He said, no. I said, if what you're telling me is the truth, I'll tell you how to pray when you have no place to make sajda. I said, is there a place for you to sit? He said, no, no place to sit, no chair, no nothing. I said, if that's the situation, stand and pray, make ruku, that you can do. You don't have to prostrate in a filthy place. And then bow a little further for sajda, if there's no place you can make sajda. So we still don't miss our salah, because we cannot pray the perfect salah. Why? Because the time of salah takes precedence over the perfection of salah. Let me give you another situation. Let's say you're in a time crunch, right? And the plane is about to depart, and you want to catch salah before you leave, and you want to do dhuhr and asr, for instance. I'll show you the shortest salah. I will describe for you the shortest, acceptable in the sense that you have fulfilled the requirements, There's also intention that has to do with acceptability and sincerity. We're not talking about that part because that's between you and Allah. What a person has in his heart and his mind, I don't know. It's not my business. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala handle that. So the short of salah would be like this. And I'm going to actually do it in front of you with picture ruku and sajda, okay? Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين الله أكبر. You make shukur. I don't have to say that. سبحان ربي العظيم سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا ولك الحمد الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى الله أكبر. اللهم اغفر لي وارحمني الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. That's the shortest rak'ah. So you only do the things that are absolutely required. Huh? So you can make the salah shorter. If you have to stand at a place at the side in the emergency room, if you have a place to make sajda, do it. If you don't, it's better for you to do the salah with ishara for ruku and sajda, like a person who is sitting, to do salah in time rather than not do the salah at all. So let me see if I summarize this. Whatever the difficulties are, whatever the hardships are, whatever the circumstances are, Rabbul Alameen knows. And what is targeted, what is intended, the primary target, is we take a break from our day and we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we mention His name. And we have this, if I was to use the term, ritual form of salah that we do as much of it as we're capable of. So if the person cannot stand, he sits. If he cannot sit, he lie down. Yeah. If he can move, he moves. If he cannot move, he does it within his ability, without moving. If he's incapable of moving, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not hold you accountable for something that's beyond your capability. This is a rule in our Shara. This is a rule in the Sharia al-Islamiyya. Allah says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not make a person mukallaf, meaning accountable. He's not held accountable, except for something that's within his capacity. If something is beyond your capacity, Allah wouldn't hold you accountable. For instance, Allah wouldn't say, why did you not give zakah if you broke? It's not within your capacity. Yeah. So if a person couldn't stand, Allah wouldn't say to him, why didn't you stand? Say, Rabb, you know I'm broken, my back is not working, my knees, I can't stand. Yeah.
I have a question about that.
1 second. So I want to make this very clear now. So our deen is very simple. If you're not able to do something, it lifts the obligations at that time. وَلَيْسَ وَاجِبٌ بِلَا اقْتِدَارٍ. Nothing is wajib if you don't have the ability to. Which would apply to the time. Let me explain that and give clarity so people don't misunderstand me. If the person is sincerely, truly, absolutely incapable, because of whatever circumstances that he and Allah knows, to do the salah at its time, then Allah wouldn't say why you didn't do salah on time, because you absolutely weren't able to. Now, if we're making an excuse, if the reason why is because we were afraid of people, if the reason was because we were shy, if the reason was because we were lazy, if the reason was because we were doing something else that we could have taken a break from, we weren't compelled, but we didn't want to. Those might be excuses for we give ourselves, but would they be accepted by Allah? Allah will decide it, and I think each of us, our conscience will let us know whether we're speaking the truth or not. That being said, I want to answer a question I saw online, I think it was today or yesterday, that they said that Islam oppresses the woman, that she's not allowed to pray when she's in her monthly cycle. That's not oppression, that's actually a gift. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that the woman is not in the right frame of mind, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So Allah lifted the obligation from her. And by the way, the statement that she's not allowed to pray is false. she's not allowed to do salah, but she can make all the dua on earth. Huh? She can read Quran. Even the scholars, they differ about reading the ayah that you make sajda, and Allah knows about that. But if you were to go over Quran in your head, you just don't hold. You don't hold the mushaf in your hand. I'm talking about the sister. You don't hold the mushaf, but if her husband holds it, her son holds it, or somebody, or she memorized and she read.
Use the phone. Some of them they use the phone nowadays.
Okay. So I'll answer that separately. Yeah. Whether the phone, when you have the mushaf and it is considered mushaf or not. Yeah. Let me answer it quickly. If you have the mushaf and what is being displayed, if you have the phone and what is being displayed as the mushaf, we need to show it the respect of the mushaf. And if it is you couldn't, then change the screen. But we're not going to pass the verdict that if you install Quran app, the phone become a mushaf. I'm not going to pass that verdict. Yeah, so now go ahead and ask the question you wanted to ask, or the observation, whatever it was.
I don't remember it now.
Okay, when you remember. You have any question? What's your name, brother?
Yusuf.
Yusuf? I have a question for you, Yusuf. Why didn't you have any questions?
Just listen.
Okay. MashaAllah. You have any questions? Any topic, just throw it. If I'm able to answer, I answer. If not, I can research. And if not, I can research later and come back to you.
I was wondering, coming back to the first question about the Qasr
Mhm.
prayer. So when does this start?
So far as distance is concerned?
The distance.
Okay. So the scholars have difference of opinion. In what I normally follow, when it's at least a distance of about 40 to 50 miles, around that distance. And I feel traveling. But the truth is, I mean, I can do 40 miles. Don't tell the cops I said this. I can do 40 miles in 25 minutes. So really, is that safar? Allah knows best. So if you feel like you are in safar, this is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I go to Jacksonville to visit my family there. Jacksonville is what, an hour and a half?
60 miles.
Is it 60 miles?
Yeah, it's only 60 miles. 60, 70 miles.
Oh, from here.
Yeah.
So from Daytona to there, I think it's more than that. So I normally will do qasr for the day or two that I'm there when I travel there. It's different from the time before, but our deen is simple. Let me explain what I mean by that. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave us concessions, we are not to come and second guess it later on and say, oh, that was then when it was harder and now it's not so hard, therefore it's not permissible anymore. That's a very, very dangerous stance to take, because now we are introducing stipulations in the Shar that is not stipulated by the Quran and Sunnah. Yeah. If the Sunnah had said that it is only considered safar if you can travel it in half a day, for instance, then we'll say, okay, now we can do the equivalent and say half a day. Yeah, you put me in a Mustang, shall we take the police off the road?
When we start,
I can easily go 400 or 500 miles in half a day easily. Yeah.
when we start making changes for Shara, is that what they call bid'ah?
No, this is not. I mean, in a way, kind of, yeah. So what the word bid'ah means? So that's a different question, but let's answer it. So bid'ah, or ibtada, well, that's fine, brother. That's fine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. See you next year, inshallah. Yeah. So bada mean to be creative, to initiate something. For example, Allah calls Himself Badi'u samawati wal ard, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala initiated the heavens and the earth from no template. He didn't Google it to see how to do it. There was no template. Allah knows, has absolute knowledge. He created the heavens and the earth and everything else. So that's why He called Himself Badi'u samawati wal ard. Did it dim, or was that me?
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
It's like light.
Alhamdulillah. So So anyway, so Allah did bid'ah as such because He came up with something new. Yeah. So when we say bid'ah, we're talking with respect to the deen.
Yes.
Huh? So and also when we say with respect to the deen, I mean this is detailed lesson, but I'm going to simplify it for you, and I don't want to give you details. So the teachings of the deen are categorized in various categories, and the scholars differ concerning the categorization. So they have different categorization. The one that I subscribe to is the categorization by one of our great scholars. His name as an Imam Shatubi. Al-Imam Shatubi. Yeah. In his book Al-Muwafaqat, he did the categorization into 4 categories, which is Al-Ibadat, Al-Adat, Al-Mu'amalat, and Al-Jinayat. So that's his categorization. And I can explain the details of that, but we don't want to do that now. So Ibadat is one category, and I'll come back to that. Adat are cultural things. For example, eating, drinking, dressing, traveling, driving, those kind of things. Those are the adat. Mu'amalat is anything that has an interaction between 2 or more people. It's part of the mu'amalat, which would include buying and selling, all transactions, business transactions, marriage, divorce, family matters, community issues. Those are all mu'amalat, interaction between people. That's a categorization. And then all the jinayat are the transgressions against the laws of Allah, and the repercussions or ramifications or consequences and punishments and so on like that. For example, capital punishment, that's just an example. Anyway, so the bid'ah comes about in the ibadat. When we talk about bid'ah in the deen, we're talking in the ibadat. So let me give you an explicit example. Right now, we're obligated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us to do 5 obligatory salah a day. Some of the scholars, they say salatul witr is wajib, the Hanafiya, and they use the word fard and wajib differently. In the language, they are not different, they're the same. That being said, some say 6, but really it's 5. And most of the scholars, the rest of the scholars says 5 salah. If someone was to come and say, no, I think that's too much, let's make it 3. It makes more sense that we shave it down to 3. Let's do Fajr in the morning, and let's do a Dhuhr in the middle of the day and Aisha at night, and we just, drop off Asr and Maghrib, for instance. If we were to agree with him and accept that and do that, that is major bid'ah, to change the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in something that is explicit. For example, we do Jumu'ah on Friday, right? But it's not very convenient because we work on Friday. So we said, you know what? Why don't we do like Christians and make it Sunday? And then when you have a big problem and you're more taking time off from work and all of that, that would be major bid'ah. Yeah. So that is not permissible. Or if someone were to introduce something into the deen, the thing itself is part of the deen, but he makes it a requirement. For instance,
I know this one, but yeah, go ahead. Salat al-Tarawih, it's a perfect example.
Okay, let's talk about Tarawih because it's coming up in 2 months. Yeah, so Salat al-Tarawih, the Sunnah is that it is recommended, and the companions used to do it, and then gathering people together in Jama'ah was done by Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, where he said, هذه بدعة حسنة, that this is good bid'ah. That wasn't what I was intending. What he meant by that, the part that he did that was bid'ah, if you wish, but it's acceptable because it's coming from Umar. See, if I were to do that, it's not acceptable because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, اهتدوا باللذين من بعد أبي بكر وعمر. And then another narration, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. But that being said, what he changed was that people used to pray individually, and they would read slightly loud so they can hear themselves. Because when you read, even if you're at home in your closet or wherever it is, and you're doing salah by yourself, in the last third of the night, if you hear yourself excuse me, it's greater motivation, helps you to concentrate. I'm talking about myself. It helps me to concentrate more and focus and enjoy what I'm saying more. So everybody is reading slightly to hear themselves, but then can you imagine in a masjid now with 10, 20, 50 people doing it, I don't know how many were doing it, their voices would intermingle and it would be chaotic, it would be noisy, people can't focus. So Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he was passing around the masjid, he saw people doing this and he gathered them together and told Ubay ibn Ka'b to lead them in salah. See that? And now he said that was the bid'ah, but it was a good thing because it eliminated something that was harmful for the people. He brought them a single leader. So now that's not a bad thing. So Salatul Tarawih is sunnatul mu'akkada. It's a sunnah that the Prophet used to always do. Except, man, I don't know if I should go into this detail. Let's come back to bid'ah.
Okay.
The bid'ah part is if a person feels like if I don't do it, I'm sinning. No, you're not. This is very important. People understand this. If someday in Ramadan you fasted the day and you went and you did Salat al-Isha and you're completely just tired and you feel, Assalamu alaikum guys, see you all tomorrow, and you go home and you sleep and you didn't do any Qiyam al-Layl or Tarawih, you haven't sinned. It's not like leaving off Salat al-Isha. They are not equal. So there is no sin, there's no obligation. The problem with people, what I have observed, and I have led Salat al-Tarawih at least 30 times. I've led Salat al-Tarawih over the years, more than 30 times actually, in different places. I've led Salat al-Tarawih in Guyana, in Trinidad, in America, in Thailand. So I've done Salat al-Tarawih in Medina, I didn't lead there. I've done Salat al-Tarawih many places. People impose upon themselves hardships in that they don't want it to be too long, but they want to do many rak'at and they want to read the whole Quran, so they start speeding it. Many times I've listened to some of the reciters read in a manner, it's very distasteful, and I leave. I cannot even stomach it. They're reading so fast, they're stumbling over themselves, dropping words, no tajweed, no focusing, they're not paying attention to what they're saying, skipping verses, all of that. That's not the way the Quran should be read. So what they have done is that they have imposed upon themselves requirements that Allah and His Messenger ﷺ did not do. Now they're not capable of doing it, so they're destroying what the objective is to read the Quran and enjoy it. So in Salat al-Tarawih, whenever I go any place to read Salat al-Tarawih, I used to tell people there are three things, you pick two, I'll determine the third. So what are the three things? How long you want to pray, how many rak'ah, and how much Quran we read. So if you tell me I must read the whole Quran, and you tell me we'll do 20 rak'ah, I'll tell you how long it takes. You don't tell me that also. And if you can't take it that long, you're going to tell me how much time you want, and then how many rak'ah you want. I'll decide how much I can read in that time, how much Quran. Or if you tell me how much Quran you want, and how long it should take, I'll tell you how many rak'ah I can do in that time. Are you following me what I'm saying here?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm the reciter, I'm the one reading and paying attention to what I'm reading, and you need to also. And if you understood Quran, you would actually appreciate the way I do Tarawih. I don't speed, I don't do none of that, but I pay attention to the needs of people. So I generally will only do 8 rak'ah. I don't read the whole Quran. I don't read 1/30th in Tarawih, but I finish the Quran in Ramadan. And you probably ask, how do I manage that? Because I do a little in Fajr, I do a little in Maghrib, I do a little in Isha, and the last 10 nights I have Qiyam al-Layl and I finish it off that way. But I don't make the Tarawih too long for people, because I know people have to work the next day, and especially in summer it gets really late, 11:30, 12 o'clock, and you need to have a little compassion for your congregation. Bid'ah, brother, is to add to the deen what does not belong to it, or to subtract from it what doesn't belong to it, thinking the things you added becomes an essential part of the deen, or the things that you subtracted from it are not essential. That's what the bid'ah is. Any more questions?
I do, but you have the time.
I have to tell me,
Okay.
when I'm talking about Deen, I can spend all night.
It's 8
Uh,
o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock. Go ahead, sister.
First of all, thank you for the information that you gave. I wanted to, the reason why I'm asking you these questions is because I'm trying to also perfect my movements as I move, differently. So, in planning a trip overseas, your flight may be 10 to 12 hours. So how do you determine while you're flying? So that is something that, if you don't mind sharing, be greatly appreciated.
So it depends on whether you're flying east and how long the flight is, and or whether you're flying west. So I have a lot of experience in that. You can get tripped up real easily, even though I'm a math guy and I visualize things and I understand the cycle of the day and all of that stuff. If you're traveling east, if you're traveling, say, from New York to Qatar, which I did that trip many times, the time difference is about 8 hours.
Yes.
So you actually lose 8 hours during the night. So if you were to leave at Maghrib, Fajr is actually going to catch up with you in about 4 hours. It's not 12 hours away, assuming 12 hours daylight and 12 hour night. So you actually have to pay attention to where you are at the time. It's not easy. It's not easy. So what I try to do is to at least get 5 salah within the day. Get 5 salah within any specific day. Traveling east, it's easy to get those in. Traveling west is very, very complicated. If you travel from Japan to New York, which I did a few times, check this out. This is crazy. I left Japan at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning in Japan. And I arrived in New York at 9 a.m. So I arrived 1 hour before I left. In your mind, I'm thinking, what salah did I miss? Did I miss any salah? Am I still good? Or when you're traveling east, you find the day crunches from 24 hours to 16 hours, or even less. I've traveled from New York to Singapore before, and it's really confusing. The day just disappears like that. So you have to estimate that in 24-hour period, you get in your 5 salah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands the circumstances. These circumstances, you're not going to find answer in the Sunnah, because they didn't used to travel that fast. They didn't used to travel that far that fast,
The closest example is that in Sunnah, when Fitnat al-Dajjal will become out.
The Prophet ﷺ give us an example of doing what we call a taqdeer. The Prophet ﷺ said when a Dajjal comes, he will spend 40 days on earth. One day would be like the length of a year. One day would be like the length of a month, and one day would be like the length of a week, and the rest of the days would be like the rest of it. So the people said, Ya Rasulullah, the day that is like the length of a year, how many salah do we do? Do we do 5 salah for that year? And the Prophet said, Qaddiru, do taqdir, meaning estimate. And this concept of estimation, by the way, we would do it if you were at a place where there is no clear sunrise or sunset. For example, in the summer, if you were up in the southern hemisphere, you wouldn't have a clear night and a clear day, and in winter you wouldn't have a clear night and day if you were in the North Pole. And therefore we'd estimate based on the nearest place. And we do the same for fasting, and the same for the salah. Allah knows best. So when you're traveling, just do your best.
Because you can shorten the prayers anyway, but I guess the issue I was concerned with.
When to pray.
Yeah, when you're short, you can shorten because you're traveling, but to be sure that you're getting all of those salats in, because when you arrive at your destination, then you're going to be responsible for that salat that's due at that time. So that's why I'm just trying
If you want help, you send me a message. No, I'm serious, and I'll calculate it for you, and I'll tell you exactly when to pray. That if when you're in the plane at this point, this is when you do Maghrib and Isha, Dhuhr and Asr and Fajr, because you'll do 3 salah 3 times You do your salat 3 times when you're traveling, Dhuhr and Asr. And let's assume that many of the flights I take from New York to other places across the other side of the earth, because I go to Thailand a lot, I would travel in the night. So I already did Dhuhr and Asr, and I also do Maghrib and Isha before I board the plane. So the only one I'm worried about is Fajr. When to do Fajr. Well, it's very complicated. It's not that easy. Because Fajr is going to come like this. Because we're moving towards the east as the east is moving towards us. As the sun is moving towards us. Well, I say moving. The sun is not moving towards us. The earth is rotating on its axis towards the sun. And we're traveling in the same direction. So it's coming real fast. So Fajr will come real quick. Yeah.
It's all boiled down to your intention too.
Your intention, yeah, you just try your best because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never going to hold you accountable for what you didn't have the capacity. That being said, when you're in the plane, most planes don't have a place where you can pray. Saudi airline has. I think maybe some other airlines may. But then you do the best you can. You make wudu and you sit in your seat and you pray. Yeah. So I do it all the time. I sit down in my seat and I pray. I do salat. Yeah. And I try to imagine where the qibla is and twist, and if you can't, yeah, you just can't, yeah. But the time is more important. Stop here? Inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. See you all next year, inshallah.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.